Hello, good afternoon and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of intense racing action in the one and only Middle of the Pack Racing League, falling into LMP3 Championship for 2024, as brought to you on the Premier Sim Racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing, and powered by our parody sponsor, the Dentistry Conference World Tour. But whether it's going to be intense racing action or drivers feeling as though they've pulled teeth today, well, we made our way from an absolutely stellar round number 1 into round number 2, and having made our way from Belgium, we're here in Spain for the one and only MotorLand Aragón. Located near the town of Alcañiz and also referenced as the Circuito de Alcañiz, this circuit is typically seen more on international racing calendars around the world, which feature racing on two wheels, i.e. motorcycles, rather than four-wheel sports cars. However, if you were to relegate it to only motorbikes, well, there you'd be making an error, because this circuit can produce some of the most intense racing action, with its fantastic combination of sweeping corners, elevation changes, and also some rather heavy braking zones, and also Spain's own equivalent of the California Laguna Seca circuit's corkscrew, albeit a little bit later on the lap and in the opposite directions. But the technical change that confronts our drivers today at this circuit is a circuit where you don't want to take your foot off the gas for any moment, and where our drivers running the outer layout of the course. Whilst we might be lacking at the second half lap in terms of the Grand Prix layout, it means that we have an extensive back straight totaling the best part of over a kilometre. Indeed, it wouldn't be a Hermann Tilke designed circuit if there wasn't a 1 kilometre back straight in there somewhere, and that means we've got some absolutely brilliant racing action to look ahead to. But as we get set and ready to go racing today, we welcome you to this broadcast, post-round broadcast that is, but live for your viewing pleasure. And that means the race itself occurred earlier this week as of what was none other than Wednesday, the 11th of September 2024. But we're bringing it to you from circuit side as if it were live this Saturday, the 14th of September. And what that does mean that in the commentary booth, we do not know what happens in the final practice session that's currently ongoing, in qualifying which is about to take place, nor in the race itself. And well, we do ask if any of you do know in our respective chats in the broadcast to avoid any potential spoilers, of course, to not ruin it for the guys and girls at home and here in the commentary booth as well. But where are our manners? Let's tell you a little bit about the broadcast. And indeed, this broadcast is available on two media platforms for your viewing pleasure. Firstly on YouTube at youtube.com and search for Paul Walsh, alternatively TX141TX. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via YouTube. And we also do have the broadcast being available on Twitch at twitch.tv/TX141. And welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch, including none other than Urky there, who says, howdy, howdy, here for another exciting race. And you betcha, Urky, it's going to be an incredible one, no doubt about it. And well, speaking of our race, we've only got one event on our schedule today. Timed in British Summer Time, that's BST, or Universal Coordinated Time +1 at UTC +1. And as we can see, we'll be going to the grid for our sprint race today, 40 minutes in duration at approximately 5:15. In the commentary booth, you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media follow me on. And well, I'll be bringing you all the racing action today, indeed over the entirety of the season. But you'll have to forgive me, ladies and gentlemen, if I do start to run out of voice at any point or enthusiasm. It's not through lack of trying, but unfortunately I think I've picked up some sort of cold or flu bug, and well, I've been saving up all my energy today, and well, let's see how far my energy is going to take me, because these guys and girls out of the cars are absolutely energetic, and they deserve a show, no doubt about it, and they're sure to put one on for us. But as we get set and ready to go today, I think it's only fair that we give you a recap of the season so far, what still lies in wait, and give you an update on the championship stands after one round of racing. So we started off last time out in Belgium at the Stage 1 Cup, open up to the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. Recently renovated as a 2023 and recently renovated on the iRacing simulator platform, and we opened up our account there with an absolutely incredible season opener, no doubt about it. Brilliant battling up and down the field, but it was Dominique Ford who set the pace at the front of the field after a highly contested win in the Pro class and overall. But let's not forget as well, in the Prime and the AM classes, there were their own stories, and we'll tell you more about those shortly. Today, it's round number 2 at MotorLand Aragón, and after today, we continue the theme of European circuits by making our way in round number 3 to the Imola circuit of the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari, and that'll be for our third and final sprint race of the Stage 1 Cup on the 18th of September, and then we bring it all to a close, the Stage 1 Cup in the first half of the season, with visits to France and the infamous Circuit de la Sarthe, or you may refer to it as Le Mans, and that'll be our first of 2 feature races for this season on the 25th of September. After that, we'll take a mid-season break for a week before returning to kick off the Stage 2 Cup as of the 9th of October, albeit now making our way onto a more international calendar, albeit returning to Europe to wrap things up, and we're starting at the Interlagos circuit, otherwise known as the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, and that'll be on the 9th of October with the first of 3 sprint races, followed up by a sprint at the Circuit of the Americas in the US state of Texas for round number 6. Round number 7 will see us make our way to Japan for the one and only Fuji International Speedway, and that'll be our final sprint race round of the season on the 23rd of October, and then we bring it all to a close, and the curtain must come down at Portimao, the Algarve circuit in round 8 of 8, the second of our feature race of the season, and that'll be on the 30th of October. But we've got a long way to go. There's a long journey ahead and many a story to be told here, and we're starting off those stories. We look to the championship standings after one round of racing. And as we can see, in the Pro class, it's Dominique Ford who leads on 50 points to the 47 of Edwin Onofre. Ford was the driver who won the race, however, he was not untouchable, and in the end, through smart and a little bit of quick thinking, was able to steer clear of the rest of the field after some brilliant battling in the first half of the race. Meanwhile, Edwin Onofre fought hard for a P2 finish, and that's exactly what he's taken into this round, with Christian Desoto as well, a new name on the grid, and a name who absolutely delivered just ahead of James Logsdon. Jalen Callaway completes the top 5 ahead of David Adeyi, with a single point between Adeyi and Dibble. Both drivers having middling results at Spa-Francorchamps, with Adeyi really coming alive in the second half of the race, and he'll be hoping that he can switch it on from the start today. Eric Nickens at P8 there on 35 points, one clear of Carl Ranieri, both drivers having ups and downs, and then Jordan Butler, last but not least, P10 on 24 points. We then come to the Prime class, and the story here is that Wesley Griffith, on his debut in a middle of the pack Racing League Series, took the class win, and with it 40 points to Justin Delano's 38. Both drivers put on an absolutely brilliant show, but it was the consistency of Wesley Griffith that saw him stand tall. However, one name all the way at the bottom there in P10, Matt Best on 13 points. Well, would you believe it if we told you that he looked on course to take victory at Spa-Francorchamps, but a late error making his way through Urugin to Radion, from what I recall, saw him drop all the way to the back of the field and therefore pick up the scraps, and he'll be the one looking for redemption today. In between them all, of course, let's not forget the rest of the field. Garrett Chavez there on 33 points, 3 clear of Matthew Quinton, with both drivers also making themselves known to the field. Mark Senegal on his promotion to the Prime class since the Formula 4s, finding himself having to adjust to the Prime class, but doing well to finish in the middle of the group in 1 point ahead of Nick Bader, with Tom Price as well. Some brilliant battling out there, 21 points, 1 ahead of Jacob Wally, and then we have Justin Bragan ahead of Matt Best there to complete the order. We then come to the AM class, last but by no means least in terms of our Drivers' Championships. And Shaji Zuhair leads the way after what was a surprise victory, albeit setting the pace and controlling it all the way through. Was it really a surprise when the checker flag fell and he was the man to walk away on top, and we finished P12 overall? And his own words, when I caught up with him after the race, he said to me, well, I was pretty happy finishing P12, and then somebody whispered in my ear, you do realise you've won the AM class race? And he went, oh, right, I've won the AM class race as well. I'll take that. But the thing is that for Shaji right now, well, he's got Navara Kamar chasing after him, and those two are really showing their smarts and pace so far. And let's not exclude Joseph Blamel either on 30 points, 4 clear of Ethan Rolfe. And right now, Blamel will be hoping just to inch his pace a little bit further forward. From Blamel and Rolfe, it's then Roger Ganesh, a third point behind on 25, 2 clear of Carl Peterson, with S. Edward Irvin there having mixed fortunes at Spa-Francorchamps in P7. And it's Glenn Bratton, Alexander Frizzolon, and Kurt Smith who complete the top 10 of the AM class, with Braden Mellin P11 and Aaron Tiggott P12. Last but not least, but not quite able to find his feet last time in Belgium. We then come to the Teams Championship, and after one round, it is ITD West who lead by a slender advantage of 3 points over Kinda Fast Racing Team. Photon Clan sit a further 2 points behind, and then it's a 7-point gap to Eclipse Racing Esports by Skyline Designs. So much is their name there, it's breaking its way through the table, and indeed they broke their way onto the grid in round number 1, and they'll be looking to try and go a little bit further and perhaps break into the top 3 today. Team Bear Pope sit P5 ahead of DNA Motorsports. Next, ITD West JMT, only 4 clear of Sunday GT Turtles, 5 behind DNA Motorsports, and find themselves with mixed fortunes over the course of the race, but 9 today they need to deliver. Sunday GT Turtles sit P8, and albeit without one of their star drivers in the form of Jason Landry, who will be on the grid today, and therefore we can expect the Sunday GT Turtle machine to be punching high in both the Pro, Prime, and also the AM classes, with breakfast for dinner and middle of the pack racing completing your top 10. Vice Motorsports sit P11 on 26 points, 3 clear Caboose Crew, and it's second breakfast to bring out the rear, P13 on 13 points, quite poetically. But that's our standings going into today. Let's talk a little bit about our circuit that's playing host, and it is the outer loop of MotorLand Aragón, located near the town of Alcañiz in the Teruel province in what is the state of Aragon in Spain, with this circuit, as we can see from the wonderful circuit map produced by iRacing, and thank you to iRacing for their fantastic simulator and the circuit maps that come with it. With this circuit, it's all about technicality in the first half of the lap, and it is a long, screaming, heart-pounding roar out of Marc Marquez corner and along one of the most extensive back straights there, all the way through to the curvature of turns 13 and 14. Indeed, we're not running the Grand Prix layout today. We're going to be running at what is the outer loop there and keeping the pace absolutely high. But let's not talk about it from my perspective. Let's give you a reference lap as brought to you by none other than defending Pro Champion Jason Landry from the Formula 4 Series earlier this year, and let's jump on board. And as we can see, jumping on board here here for the flying lap as he makes his way down towards turn number 1. Braking about 150 metres from corner apex, trail braking there to avoid locking up the front brakes, and into battle with power oversteer as he makes his way through. Now flat out through 2 and on the run he goes all the way up to 3, opening up turn 3 here, flat out as close as he dares his dream to do so, but we've got to be careful of those sausage curves on the inside apex. Now heading to turn 5, but you break through the curvature of 4 here, and that's what the technical challenge is, and the fact you have to settle the rear of the car down and get it to point in a straight line under braking. He absolutely gets it right, now makes his way through the curvature of 6 to set himself up for an elongated braking zone at turn 7. Where's the corner? There it is, braking approximately 100 metres from corner apex, but given how wide the circuit is, you can afford to go deep there, as he now makes his way up to Sacahuacos. Well, this is the Spanish equivalent of the corkscrew, braking the 100 metres toward trail, braking down to second gear, tapping a little bit of throttle there to steady the car, and then turning through a left-hander, and now it's full throttle all the way around onto the back straight via Marc Marquez corner at turn number 10. Flat out he goes all the way through here, keeping it nice and tight to let the car roll out onto the exit curbing, and now it's a long sprint heading up to 5th gear. We'll get ourselves up to 6th gear eventually with that V8 powered Nissan engine, and as he makes his way on down, well, right now just keeping it nice and tight, but we'll gradually let the car weave its way to the outside here. He's putting minimal steering in order to maximise the speed and therefore minimise his lap time as he heads in towards that braking zone. Well, we've got a way to go yet. This is where we see a lot of the battles in the draft, heading in towards the braking zone. Then here he goes onto the anchors, braking at what is effectively the 150 metre board for the Grand Prix hairpin, and we'll just a dab of the brakes, drop it down to 4th gear, and then back on the throttle immediately to complete the lap. A lovely lap from Jason Landry. But now coming on to our rules for today. Of course, we can't go racing without them, and as we can see, in terms of setup-wise, all drivers will be running a fixed setup as provided by the Middle of the Pack Racing League with fuel loads restricted to 50 litres. We corrected from last time, the races shall start via a rolling start, and indeed that's going to be mandated throughout the entirety of the season, and the drivers shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 15 or more instant points. Now, grid order shall be set based on a closed qualifying session before the race. That's going on currently, and we're not going to be covering the qualifying session, and each driver shall have one fast repair available at any point if they need to come into the pits to do repair work. They have that available over the course of the race. And we're not expecting any safety cars in our sprint races this season. They'll only be applied in the feature races. We'll tell you exactly how when we come around to our first feature race in round number 4, but no safety car deployment whatsoever. But right now, let's not talk about safety cars because we want our drivers to go absolutely full pelt, no doubt about it. And we head back to circuit side because it is time to make our way to the grid, and this is how they'll line up for our race of the day. It is Jason Landry who has taken pole position for Sunday GT Turtles, starting off as he means to continue, no doubt about it, and he's joined on the front row of the grid by Jaden Callaway for ITD West. Meanwhile, David Adeyee starts P3 for ITD West just behind, and it's Christian Desoto completes the second row for Kind of Fast Racing Team. The Americans are James Logsdon for Team Bear Pope and Jordan Butler for DNA Motorsports line up P5 at P6, with Julian Jones and Eric Nickens P7 at P8 for ITD West JMT and Fo Tan Clan. We then have your top 10 completed by your Pro-Am pole sitter, none other than Justin Bragan. Congratulations to him from Middle of the Pack Racing, and he is joined on that 5th row of the grid by Am pole sitter and championship leader Shaji Zuhair. The ITD West JMT driver definitely showing his pace, and you never know, he might be seeing himself move to the Pro-Am class at this rate given his performances so far. Justin Delano starts Best SP11 for Eclipse Racing Esports by Skyline Designs, and he's joined on the 6th row of the grid by fellow Pro-Am driver Wesley Griffith for Photan Clan. We then have behind them the combination of Tanner Dibble for DNA Motorsports, ahead of Kind of Fast Racing Team's Garrett Chavez. And we have Mark Senegal started P15 for Sunday GT Turtles ahead of Ethan Roll for Vice Motorsports. And then Nick Bader starts P17, not where he wanted to start. I think he wanted to qualify a bit higher, but he's got the company on the 9th row of the grid of Jermaine Warren for Middle of the Pack Racing. And then your top 20 is completed by Tom Bryce for ITT West JMT and Joseph Blumel for Eclipse Racing Esports by Skyline Designs. Jay DeVries starts P21 for Vice Motorsports ahead of Lee Porter for Middle of the Pack Racing. And then we do have on row number 12 Glenn Bratton, the privateer, and Slipstream Sloth's Tim Chong. Then on row 13, it's the combination of Jake Gertson for Vice Motorsports and Aaron Tiggett for Team Bearpoke, qualifying well there compared to how he qualified at Spa-Francorchamps. Johns. And then we do have Jesse Jameson Jr. starting P27 for Votan Clan. Normally struggles with qualifying, but does very well over race distance. And the same can be said for Braden Mellin for Eclipse Racing Esports by Skyline Designs. Your top 30 is completed by S. Edward Irving for Team Bearpoke, who was the last driver to set a valid lap. And then Dominique Ford qualifying P30. Well, that's a surprise. And, well, he's going from hero to zero. And he's going to need to try and find a way to make himself a hero come the end of this race. He's got a lot of work to do. Same for Matthew Quinton, the privateer, and Aaron Lahr, both starting there on the 16th row of the grid. And our final row to complete our 34 starters, Todd Miller for Caboose Crew and Alexander Frizzalone start P33, P34. Well, the grid is set, ladies and gentlemen. Everybody is in their positions, and well, as they make the way behind the pace car here, we are not too far away from going green flag racing. But as they grab gradually inched their way along. Of course, it'll be to Jason Landry to set the pace and decide when to go. You see the pace car lights already off there, and we haven't got too far to go before we go green flag racing, and he will determine when we go. And we'll bring up the dashboard in the bottom right hand corner so you can see exactly when he decides to go green. As they make the way through, of course, Landry has the inside into turn 1. That's where you want to be. It's a heavy braking zone after a long run. But how long a run will he give everyone? Will he take his time? Will he decide to go early and fox everybody out? Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The safety car is in. And as he creeps on forward, it's all up to Landry now to go, go, go. And, well, without further ado, it's lights out and away we go as he roars his way down to turn 1. Jalen Calloway on the outside here. It's 3 wide almost there. You can see Christian Desoto getting involved. The field comes down. A couple of lockups there. Cold brakes, of course, as they all make their way through the corners. But most of our drives safely on through the opening left-hander. Very tight corner. Leapwater started from the pit lane. I think they had an issue with the car. Oh, goodness me. And that's gone very wrong there. Multiple cars having to spear out the way and a lot of brakes going on, a lot of lockup. And I think there's been contact between Justin Delano, Garrett Chavez, and also there a couple of other drivers got involved. But it's Delano and Chavez who really come off the worst of it all. The 2 prime drivers being caught up. And, well, we won't be able to get a replay of that due to the limitations we have with broadcasting on iRacing replay file. We might be able to get it later on in the broadcast today, but I tell you one thing, it's gone wrong for 2 of our big stars in the prime class from Spa-Francorchamps, and as things settle down now, well, it's all going to be about trying to redeem themselves over the course of the rest of this race, whether that was their fault or not. But meanwhile, as we saw that instant, and that's pushed what was your AM Pulsar all the way down the order. None other than Zuhair falling down the order to P23. Even Rolf has snuck his way into P13. He's your AM leader right now, letting on by there what was none other than Nick Bader, as Bader having a little bit of a latency issue as they power their way down the back straight. But now this is where we're going to see what will be the tactical decisions need to be. Do you go for the overtake down this back straight? Do you fuel save? Or do you just work together initially and swap places time and time again in order to try and break away from the rest of the change in pack? As the V8s roar their way past our ears, and indeed as they make the way on through turns 13 and 14 to complete lap, with Jalen Calloway is your leader ahead of Jason Landry after 1 lap of racing. As they roar their way onto lap number 2, it's Calloway ahead of Landry, followed by Adeyi. Then it's Logston in P4, Christian Desoto P5, Jordan Butler P6, Eric Nickens P7, Julian Jones P8, Wesley Griffith, your prime leader P9, and then Tanner Dibble, who's made 3 places since the start in P10, and your AM leader is still Ethan Rolfe, who's now into P12 and made his way past none other than Nick Bader down the back straight. And you can see there Mark Senegal trying to be cheeky, go up the inside through 2 into 3, force Bader to go on the defensive here through the double right-hander, albeit that will put him offline coming into 4-5. And as I head onto the brakes here with Delano and Chavez are into the pits, Tiggott staying out there and carrying on despite damage to the car, so therefore it's a bit of an upset for the start for 2 of our big names in the prime class. But where some fall, others will rise. That's always the story in these races, and we've got a long way to go. And well, it looks like it's going to be a beautiful sunny day here today. I don't think we're going to be seeing any rain, but you never know what can happen later on in the season. But meanwhile, that's Jermaine Warren. In fact, that's not Jermaine Warren, that's Jesse Jamison Jr., who's taking a trip to play sandcastles there on the exit at turn number 7. Now, whether he was forced out there, alternatively, whether he's made the trip of his own volition, had to let go of the brakes, we don't know. That's also Jermaine Warren there, taking it slowly. I think Warren and Jamison Jr. have had a little bit of an altercation, and right now Warren is trying to back off potentially to let Jamison Jr. on through. It's going to be a difficult one because they are now heading onto the back straight. You can see Warren there backing off, so I suspect they've had a bit of a coming together, and Jamison Jr. being sent out wide as a result, and Jermaine Warren, being the sportsman that he is, letting Jamison Jr. retake the place off of him as compensation. It won't feel like much in the heat of the moment, but it will be massively appreciated after the racing, as Warren now will be very vulnerable down this back stretch as they make the way up towards 13-14. But as they do, meanwhile, speaking of a man who's got it all to do after what is an open lap to be desired, Shaji Zuhair right now looking around the outside there, Braden Melling. It's a lovely move, and he seals the door shut as they head across the timeline onto lap number 3 they go. And the Canadian driver for ITT West JMT showing absolute bravery there to go around the outside, but it is possible. And on that wider circumference, what you do, you restrict your rival to a much tighter line. They can't bury the throttle as early on corner exit, but of course the downside for you on the outside is you're putting your hands, or in fact you're putting your life in terms of the race in the hands of your rival, expecting them to back off. And at the same time as well, what you're also doing is risking what is the possibility of going very deep. And meanwhile, somebody under risk here of losing more places. He's already lost 3 and he's trying to stop the rot here. Is Justin Bragan from middle of the pack racing, as right now he's really trying to dig in. That's Joseph Lamel behind with Jay DeRees looking up the inside. Well, of course, you may be wondering at this point, why are they battling each other? There are different classes. Remember, they score points first and foremost based on overall finishing position in both the class championships and also overall. So regardless, therefore you've got to fight with everybody here because every position matters. And if you're in the AM and the Prime classes, you also get bonus points for being on the class podium. 3 for first, 2 for second, 1 for third. As they power their way on down the back straight. De Vries now under pressure from Jake Gertsen. Gertsen here, it looks as though might be backing off as we ride on board. Albeit backing off initially, but something tells me that Gertsen may be deciding not to back off in the long run now. And well, he gets closer and closer here, but lifts off the throttle, decides not to bump draft. Indeed, a rule has been introduced after the bump draft and Spa-Francorchamps, which almost resulted in a few major shunts. Well, the rules have been put in place that bump drafting is not permitted. If you're going to work in a slipstream train with someone, you need to swap the places around. You can't push each other forward because these LMP3 machines are sensitive on that back end. As they head up towards turn at number 1, Jake Gertsen right now having to try and find a way to make the move here versus Vries. Goes a win. It's very late on the brakes. The car slides. Hits a sausage curb. Contact there with De Vries. And in the end, Gertsen misses braking point, thinking about snatching it to try and go up the inside, but locking up further. And in the end, becomes a passenger in his leisure and going over that sausage curb. Will in the end, unfortunate there. And will De Vries will take the place back, but it's cost them both a lot of time. And well, right now, time is certainly something that is gradually trickling away. As Gertsen losing the place there to Irving, I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to lose even more as time goes on. In fact, that's a wounded car there. I think the Vice Motorsports driver might just be trying to get it home. But meanwhile, looking to the front of the field, Jaden Callaway right now pulling away. 1.4 seconds is the gap as Adayi versus Landry. But remember, now we could be starting to see some strategy here as the ITT West driver side by side with the Sunday GT Turtles driver. And well, Adayi moved to the pro class, given his performances in pre-season practice. And well, right now showing why he's in that pro class, no doubts about it. With James Logston watching on behind. Christian Desoto almost there. They're looking at making it 3 wide. Well, careful, lads. This is going to get very interesting. It's going to be Logston in what is the left-hand side of your picture. Landry in the middle, and then swapping round. Now that he was on the right, he's gone to the inside of the corner. That is going to be Adayi who takes one, but now he's got Logston trying to go all the way around the outside here, and Logston using the momentum, using the sweep to his advantage as Callaway just pulling away. And as they make the way down towards turn 1, it's going to be 3 wide again into the braking zone, but Landry decides only to make it 2 wide in the end with the pressure that's coming up from Christian Desoto behind. And Desoto goes a little bit deep there. I think having to be cautious. A bit of a lock-up for Landry or Desoto, and the other having to take evasive action. But as they make the way into turn 3, they've been able to survive it there. As you can see right now, James Logston up into P2, fighting his way past the pair. And James Logston definitely showing you why he's not to be underestimated. He wasn't on the grid for the Formula 4 series, but he was absolutely itching at the bit to get back into the racing for the LMP3s. And we're more than happy to see him here and mixing up with the best of the best on this grid as they come on through turn at number 7 and down towards the Spanish corkscrew once again. Well, right now they're all going to settle their differences, but meanwhile, speaking of 2 drivers who are not settling their differences, this is Nick Bader going around the outside of Mark Senegal. Albie goes very deep on that outside line, and again the challenge here of course is making an overtake and trying to get it to stick in the fact that you can approach these corners for battling through both the inside and the outside line. And whilst the outside line in theory does offer you a little bit more grip for the most part, the problem is on that inside line you have authority to the apex. 2 wide through is challenging, but meanwhile Bader having a little bit of a tank slapper coming on through at Marquez corner at turn number 10, brings it back together, and as they make the way on down, Tom Bryce gets on through. He's going to try and make the move on Mark Senegal here as they head on down the back straight, albeit these 4, keeping in mind of course that Vlamel now in the orange machine, the orange black machine, a bit further up the road of them, where he's going to try and lead this group on down. The AM driver mixing it up. He's P2 in AM class, with Ethan Rolfe being the best part of what is 7 seconds up the road. So Blamel will be hoping that he can clear these drivers and try and break away and let them fight over their own business, because right now if he is able to find some clear air, he can match Rolfe's pace. But the problem is if he can't break away, then that pace will not be matched at all. But he heads in towards the next lap, roaring his way on down. Well, Ethan Rolfe right now finding his way past Christian Desoto, and Desoto going slowly. Well, I think there's been an off track for the kind of fast racing team driver. The number 59 has fallen well outside of the top 5. It's a lot dropped all the way down to number P11 right now, and therefore I think the American driver right now focusing more on just getting himself back together. As the damage on the car goes a little bit deep there, but that could be overheating of the tyres, to be fair. This LMP3 tyre compound, particularly the slick compound, hypersensitive to being overheated, and as soon as it goes out of its temperature window, if it goes above it, it's suddenly like driving on an ice rink, and you need to calm those tyre temperatures down. So right now Desoto will most likely have to spend a lap or 2 just taking it nice and easy. It goes against the driver's spirit of course, but if you want those tyres to last in the long run, you've got to take it easy, get them back into their operating window, and then you can start to push again, much like the GT3s and the GT4s on iRacing. All the tyre compounds have their optimum window, and with these LMP3s it's no different as they make the way way on down the back straight. But as he does so, we look back to Bryce versus Blumel, and Bryce now looking for a potential move here as they power their way on through, and he's going to look around the outside. Coming out of the toe nice and early, getting very close early on. Now it will mean he's going to have a small speed advantage here in terms of top end speed, but the problem is he's going to be made to go around the outside, and that's not always easy. We've seen it work so far for 2 drivers, at least 2, and as they make their way in towards 13-14, well, Bryce goes for it here. Blumel's there. Bryce tries to squeeze into the apex as much as possible to give himself as much room, and a lovely move from Bryce. As meanwhile, that's Nick Bader going around, and well, I think that's of his own volition, just a little bit too much power on entry, or too much speed on entry, and not letting the car settle down. But what are these things being very lightweight, the engine being behind you as a driver, it's very easy to have them go round on you, particularly at medium to high speed corners, and Nick Bader feeling the pain there. As meanwhile, Aaron Lahr losing a place to Lee Porter, and well, Porter making his way through, having started from the pit lane. Porter now up to P27, having started effectively P34, but a 5-second deficit to the field, and picking up place. And Nick Bader has had to be towed to the pit. So whatever happened when he went for the spin, I think he hit the apex sausage curb. That's damaged the suspension, and he can't get into the pit lane. He'll lose a whole lap, and that will be absolutely painful. Oh, goodness me! And as I look away for a brief moment to look at the chat, it's all gone very, very wrong there for Porter and Jameson Jr. And well, as these two bring it back together, well, Aaron Tilke dodging an absolutely huge moment, and with that, Alexander Frizzalone also getting on through, and well, that could have been tears for many more, but in the end, Jameson Jr. and Lee Porter both coming to blows, and Lee Porter's had to be towed to the pits as a result. As they make the way onwards to this lap, well, Jameson Jr. right now, I wouldn't be surprised if he's considering coming to the pits at the end of this lap. Speaking of the end of this lap, a quarter of the race complete, 3 quarters still to go in terms of time. And as our drivers make the way around, we look back to the leaders, and our leader of Jaden Callaway, you can see there in the foreground of your camera shot, well, he's setting what is the fastest pace. In fact, that was David Adeyi we were looking at, and this is Jaden Callaway. And well, we might have got it slightly wrong there, but now we're going to get it right, and you can see that 4.2 second gap. Well, it's absolutely enabling him just to run away. Of course, the downside that Callaway has in being by himself is he can't fuel save as effectively as some of his rivals might be able to. So therefore, take that 4.5 second gap with a pinch of salt, in the fact it may come down quite significantly, particularly if Logston, for example, is now really thinking about fuel saving down the back straight and no longer fighting. But again, that comes down to the driver, as meanwhile Landry and Butler, well, these two, they've battled plenty of times over the last 3 years, and their battles continue once again as they make the way out to turn 7. Landry holds on for now. Butler in the end gets a poor run off the corner, and he's going to be exposed to Eric Nickens, who looks around the outside to inside here, and well, lovely livery on the car, even if it's not the correct livery, as I do believe Erky in the Twitch chat is Mr. Nickens. But I can tell you one thing, it looks like, and right now the orange machine that looks like some sort of McLaren F1 car from a distance, I must say, we're right now absolutely storming on through, and well, making his way on down that backstretch once again, but knowing that he's bought Landry now the best part of half a second, and they need to have a bit of a mutual discussion here, albeit you can't really talk to each other at these speeds, but you've got to try and find a way to get in the head of your rival to say, look, don't fight me, I won't fight you, we need to catch back up to Landry, because otherwise we're relegated our fight to much further down the order. But as they roar their way down into that braking zone for turn 13, of course it's easier said than done when you're travelling in excess of 150 miles per hour in trying to work out what your rival's doing, but a lot of these guys know each other from past MPRL series and also from other official iRacing series and other third-party series, so therefore they'll know who they can work with, who they can trust, and who they might have to be a little bit more careful around in terms of just not knowing how they race, or perhaps they race each other a bit more harshly. But meanwhile, we have 3 wide here into the final corner, and that's Matthew Quinton around the outside. He's going for the double move here, and well, that's going to be on Braden Mellon and Tim Chong, and Matthew Quinton gets it done. What a lovely move from the Briton as he makes his way up towards turn number 1, and well, the 184 driver right now showing for Blighty exactly what the prime driver could do as he makes his way through the left into right, and Braden Mellon and Tim Chong, they're in their own little battle to be fair, but Matthew Quinton clearing that one and doing it the difficult way. But sometimes we don't do things as JFK once said, of course, we don't do things because they are easy, but we do it because they are difficult, and Matthew Quinton taking that JFK spirit. But that's where we'll park the politics at the door, and as they make the way up towards turn 6 and 7, now what is going to be Quinton's trump card, no parody intended there, or pun intended, as he makes his way up through turn 7. We'll have to wait to see as he chases after Mark Senegal for what will be P4 in the prime class. But coming down to that braking zone, and we'll keep our eyes on that in the distance, as meanwhile further back, Aaron Lahr right now under continued pressure from Aaron Tilke. As Tilke looking for an opportunity here to try and get past the prime and go hunting after fellow Amtrak Todd Miller. Miller goes very wide there. That's going to be an off track, no doubt about it, but he will rejoin. He may also pick up an automated slowdown for that. We've got to defend the inside here. Lock up for what is none other than Miller. And in the end, Hermann Tilke just cuts back and avoids the wayward 210 for Caboose crew. Or Miller right now, I mean, picked up those marbles on the exit of turn number 5. That will not have helped his cause. He makes his way down to 8-9, and therefore he's going to try and shake those marbles off. But as we do say hello in the YouTube chat to Zen, who is enjoying the race, I suspect, and we'll say hello to in the Twitch chat to David Take the Wheel, who's looking forward to the race, and we'll hopefully you've enjoyed it so far, David. Do let us know. Well, as our drivers continue to push on. Well, right now we're not even at the halfway point yet, and indeed the field staying ever closer. Mark Senegal, meanwhile, as I look at my commentary booth window, has come into the pit lane, and will Senegal deciding to pit early. And well, that might buy him some time later in the race. Of course, we did see at Spa-Francorchamps the pit window was anywhere from the region of approximately 12 minutes into the race all the way through to approximately 32 minutes into the race. So therefore, we've got a very wide pit window. There's very little fuel that needs to go in. There's always the question of, do you need a replacement tyre or two? But then again, that will be down to the discretion of drivers. But the one thing they are capped on is the fuel. They have to put a small splash and dash in order to get to the end of the race. But if you could try to lower that through using the tyre, one of your rivals and doing some fuel saving into the braking zones by lifting off the throttle approximately 25 to 50 metres early before the braking zone, well, that could be enough to save you and get the time back. But as he heads on down, Nickens right now just keeping his head down here, chasing after David Aye and then James Logston. Right now, MP2 Adeyi right behind, and then Nickens would like to get into this fight, but he is 1.4 seconds back as they head into 13-14. Callaway is now 6.3 seconds cleared. He's going purple after purple lap, albeit Adeyi the fastest in the final sector, given he's in the tow. But right now, Callaway is absolutely flying and lapping almost a second a lap faster that time around, albeit I suspect it's a bit of a mixed bag, but the key point being that Jaden Callaway right now seems to be absolutely unstoppable out there, as the ITT West drive has been bought a lot of space. You've got to be fair with the teamwork that's been done here for David Adeyi, who's fought hard to try and get P2, but he's now losing James Logston. So Logston has been unleashed now onto the field, and we'll have to wait and see whether Logston in clear air is able to take the fight to Callaway. It's a big gap to close down, but then again, we'll have to see, given the fact we've still got a long way to go. But from them, we meanwhile look to Joseph Blamel as Blamel makes his way up the rise into turns 4 and 5. We are riding on board the front nose cone of what is Blamel's car, the 234, and the AM driver right now finds himself caught up behind Bryce, and then it's Shaji Suhair, the second place AM driver, just ahead of Bryce. So therefore Blamel trying to get his way into a high position inside the top 15, but also trying to go hunting after P2 in the AM class, albeit you can see there Suhair getting a little bit of power oversteer on an exit. So therefore those rear tyres now start to get warmer. Move up the inside there from Blamel, a bit of contact, trying to force his nose in. Bryce shutting the door on him, as meanwhile Jay DeVries off cameras had to be towed to the pits. I believe there's been an incident for DeVries, and Aaron Lars had a major off track at a similar time, so I wonder if the two are interconnected. And meanwhile, as they make their way through, Alexander Frizzalone, that is at turn number 5. He's been sent all the way out there in what is the Jota livery machine. I believe those are the Jota colours. And the Jota Hertz machine, referencing back to, of course, what would have been the 2023 Porsche 919, racing in what was in fact not the Porsche 919, it's a different designation, don't quote me on it, but racing as part of Le Mans, the car that could have won Le Mans if it weren't for the fact it seemed to rebel against its owners. And right now, Frizzalone seems to be finding that the car's rebelling against him, albeit we don't know the true story there, so we will have to find out after the race in. As he comes on down through what is turn number 10 now, and onwards towards the backstretch, where he's running in what is P23 overall, P7 in the AM class, and he has got S. Edward Irving chasing after him. There is Irving, the Team Bear Poe driver in the 242. The Canadian still in the tow here, building up the speed, and well, in doing so, he's going to get closer and closer, albeit the gap should come down to approximately what will be about 2 tenths by the end of the long run down the back straight. Keeping in mind, these cars gradually build up speed in the tow, but they don't build it up too aggressively, like say the Formula 4s. So therefore the tow is beneficial, but it's more enabling you to save some fuel rather than being able to come from a long way back and make a move. A run wide there from Frizzalone, so that's going to give Irving the momentum he needs here on the start for this straight, but it's not enough. And in fact, in the end, Irving not quite getting the run he wanted into turn 1, and Frizzalone seems to have found a bit of time, so therefore Irving backing off here, and I think doing some fuel saving under braking, because a half a second gap was opened in the space of that braking zone, albeit as the better exit out the corner. He gets 2 temps back immediately, but I think Irving here is now playing for strategy. Meanwhile, we look back up inside the top 5, and well, as we can see, David Adeyi making his way on around here. He's got Eric Nickens behind, and in front of him he's got James Logston. He's caught between a rock and a hard place out of the year as Nickens there taking a peek around the outside, but knowing you can't go too wide out. Jason Landry is into the pit lane from at the time what was P4, so that in fact P5, so therefore he's decided he's going to try and go for an offset strategy of pitting early in order to give himself some clear track and then go hunting after positions. But as our drivers make the way on around, we'll keep an eye on where Landry comes out as he makes his way past our commentary booth window. And as Eddie heads up the hill in towards turns 4 and 5, where Nickens right now just waiting, and Logston leading this trio as Jordan Butler 1.1 seconds back would like to be a part of it. Meanwhile, Jaden Callaway is just running away with this. 8 seconds is now the gap as he makes his way down into turns 8 and 9, and where it looks so he's absolutely delivering perfection here. As meanwhile, Jason Landry leaves the pit lane. Where does he come out in all this? He's going to come out P15. He buys himself some space there to Jemison Julia and Bader, who are fighting a lap down. He's got Chong the best part of 2 seconds up the road, but I suspect the Canadian driver here might be hoping that Chong comes into the pit soon, or if not, he might be able to get him on the extensive back straight, but it's all going to come down to where he catches him in order to make this work. Ideally, what Landry would like to do is catch up to him on the run through the first 9 corners, and they get a huge run out of turn number 9. And on the back straight, make the move, going to turn 13, and in fact he'll gain lap time rather than lose it. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. As Frezzalone into the pits, he decides he's had enough of his current stint. I suspect the tyres might want a bit of a breather, and Landry gets the run here, and well, he gets a bit too close too soon. Chong is going to be on the outside of Marc Marquez at turn number 10, and what that means is that Landry does get clear, but he doesn't really gain any time. He'll lose a tenth or two for Lex. He wasn't able to use the full width of the corner. Now Chong will likely just sit behind him, given the fact they're in 2 different races, and Chong has not pitted as of yet. Meanwhile, Landry has, so therefore there'd be no point for Chong to fight it, given they are in completely different strategies. But meanwhile, as we look back towards the front of the field, Nickens and Logston with Addy pulling away, and Logston has fallen back, in fact, now falling back to P4, but I think James Logston here is really playing the strategy game first and foremost, and therefore not really too worried. Let's run on board and listen in and see if we can hear any fuel saving. Well, no fuel saving there into turn 7, but perhaps not that effective. What about turn 8? Backing off a little bit there, so might be trying to do a small part of fuel saving, but doesn't want to lose the pack. But we'll have to see how long he takes in the pits. Indeed, the stationary time for Jason Landry was 11.34 seconds, and he is expected to be as part of this battle in the second half of the race when we do see the strategies complete. So that's our marker to take. Of course, many a driver decided to gamble at Spa-Francorchamps. We're taking a lot less fuel than needed and trying to find a partner with the fuel save within the final 3 or 4 laps. It didn't quite work out the way that many wanted it to, and therefore they'll be cognizant not to make that mistake again as Logston powers his way on down. Well, no change here at the moment. Everyone in a bit of a running order now. Meanwhile, the same can be said for Christian Desoto versus Wesley Griffith, or could it, as you can see there. And Desoto on the left of your picture, Griffith on the right, and well, Desoto's going to try and go around the outside. As they head into the braking zone, it's going to be a hard run on the brakes for the pair of them, and Desoto does get ahead, but Griffith does not make it easy. And well, Wesley Griffith at this point will now know the next car behind, 1.5 seconds back, it's none other than Justin Bragg, the second place Pro-Am. So now you have got the top 3 of the Pro-Ams in running order of P9 through to P11, albeit Bryce is 15 seconds behind the top 2 of the Pro-Am class, you see towards the back of this picture. And well, Desoto in turn will be chasing after Tanner Dibble and hoping now that he's clear of the Pro-Ams that he can make a bit more headway afterwards the difficult race start. But as we head up towards what will be the end of the 23rd minute, Ethan Rolfe, meanwhile, who has pitted already, it should be said, he is the leading AM driver who has taken his pit stop, and the Vice Motorsports driver from France, I think, will be expected at this point that he may just be leading by the time everyone's made their pit stops. So he's in the tow of Marc Senegal, albeit Marc Senegal has not taken his pit stop as of yet, and therefore I would imagine that for Rolfe at this time he'll be stuck in behind, and we're just hoping that Senegal can match him for pace and therefore does not cause many problems, as Jermaine Warren makes his way down pit lane, and as he does so, we're also coming in there in the rear of the picture. That's Aaron Lahr, who's taking a visit to the pit, so therefore both drivers in at this point. Meanwhile, Matthew Quinton, well, this is Shachi Zuhair versus Quinton. Quinton going around the outside. It's another place being made there for Quinton now to P17. Aaron made his stop. Zuhair's also made his pit stop, so therefore these two swapping places. They are in different classes. I think Zuhair at this point probably thinking, you know what, my fight isn't with Quinton. I'd love to keep him behind, but I need to look at chasing down Rolfe, who is 10 seconds up the road, and you never know what could happen before this this race is over, as meanwhile, as the leaders make the way across the line, we're missing one of them because David Adeyeye is in to the pit lane for ITT West. He creeps down the pit lane, and as he does so, a couple of cars there, that is Fez Alone, who's, well, that's not Fez Alone, that is Jameson Jr. having repair work done to the car. Indeed, 2 laps down at this point after that incident early on, and Adeyeye comes into the pit. Well, from one ITT West driver to another who's staying out, Jaden Callaway, of course, has the right to dictate when exactly he wants to come in because he's got nobody around him at the moment. 10.2 seconds is now the gap, and this man refuses to leave the 32s. Every lap so far in this race for Jaden Callaway, minus the opening lap, has been a 32. Meanwhile, the pace of everybody else out there, 33s or higher. Callaway right now is absolutely flying. I don't know what he's done between round 1 and round 2, but I can tell you this, the number 37 driver is absolutely loving it out there right now, and we love to see it as he roars his way on down the back stretch. And as he does so, Ethan Rolfe Mimon out to P2 in and P15 overall. Braden Mellon into the pits, he relinquishes the position, and as they make the way up the rise here, Rolfe still following Senegal, and it's interesting to see here these two very equal in pace. Rolfe, the best part of a 10th slow on that previous lap, but I wouldn't be surprised if Rolfe right now is just using Mark Senegal as his pace car and thinking, you know what, he's running about 90 to 95% of my maximum pace that I can probably do. I might as well just stay behind him at a good distance and let him help me just save some fuel in case I need to push harder towards him, in case he needs to max out the rev range when he goes attacking, should he get the chance. And of course, he can always battle with Senegal towards the end to try and pick up some extra points, but the Frenchman right now just playing it smart, keeping his rival within arm's reach. And meanwhile, from those who are keeping in arm's reach, those in the pits, Callaway's into the pit lane. And well, as he sits there, your race leader relinquishes the lead at long last, and James Logston now is your leader, but yet to take a pit stop, of course. We're keeping an eye on Callaway's pit time. We expect it to be a bit longer. Stationary time for Callaway, 12.07 seconds. There's got to have been some fuel saving in there, but intriguingly, Eric Nickens, 11.2 seconds out there for Fotan Clan. He comes out, and well, Jason Landry is nowhere to be seen, and David Adeyeye the same. Now, Nickens here, I think, may have got this right on the strategy, because Adeyeye is the best part of 2 seconds behind. And as they make the way up towards what is turn number 5, onto the braking zone they go, and the Fotan Clan driver absolutely keeping his head down and doing everything in his power. But as he does so, well, I can see there Pixel Player 1 in the Twitch chat, that being none other than, I do believe, Ethan Rolfe. And well, whilst iRacing may show him as a Frenchman, he is in fact from England, and therefore he can't believe he's just been called a Frenchman. But I can tell you one thing, I do apologise, and we'll get that fixed for the broadcast in a week's time, round number 3 at Imola. Don't you worry about it, Ethan. And we'll mean, well, let's come back to the battle in action as we look here to Christian Desoto versus Tanner Dibble. And as they come on down towards the braking zone, this is Desoto right now on the inside. Both of these drivers yet to pit, and Desoto, of course, having the lion's share of work in order to try and recover after a difficult race start that saw him drop all the way outside the top 10. He's now up to P4, but remember, he's yet to pit. Dibble immediately dives to the pit lane, so Dibble thinks he has taken the journey as far as he can on the first stint. Behind that's Justin Braggan yet to pit, and then a bit further back you've got Jaden Callaway, who's making his way to the timeline, and this is your driver who is the leader of the people who have pitted, and on top of that as well, he is the driver right now who we would expect will re-inherit the lead when everybody in front of him does come in for their pit stop. And as he makes his way on around Tanner Dibble, makes his way out the pit lane, where's he going to come out? And he comes out there practically side by side with Tom Bryce. Bryce, in fact, just goes past, and we look to the blimp camera there. You can see Bryce ahead of Dibble as they make the way up through turn 3 and in towards 4 or 5. So Bryce right now, Tom Bryce going a very long way in this race, much like Justin Braggan. So I think Bryce is perhaps suturing himself to what is Braggan's strategy, and the idea when Braggan comes in, he may do the same. Well, perhaps Bryce just feels as though he can go nice and long here, and he's just in the zone. And to be fair, when you're in the zone, don't interrupt the driver, just let them keep going. But the problem is right now, Tanner Dibble would like him to get out of his zone because of the fact that Dibble wants to try and make a little bit more progress. He's come out ahead of Eric Nickens and David Adeyeye, and therefore Dibble right now really trying to do everything in his power to push on. But as DNA Motorsports driver makes his way on around, side by side they go through the corner, and well, the 00 there Well, on our timing sheets, it does say it has not actually stopped in the pit lane. So was that a drive-through penalty for Tanner Dibble for track limits? Because if so, that was going to put him well out of contention for the top 10 when he does come in for his pit stop, given the fact that he does have between himself and what is Matthew Quinton 30 seconds. Quinton down in P14 for reference. And what a pit stop, the time loss for a pit stop around here is somewhere in the region of 25 to 30 seconds. So therefore, I think Dibble right now, unless we've got an error on our graphic off screen, which you guys and girls can't see, I think Dibble might be finding this race going against him. In fact, he keeps it nice and tight in the exit 14 and into the pits this time for what will be a pit stop, we would presume, as also comes in Bryce. Bragan's also in, so that is as far as they can go, and Jaden Callaway retakes the lead. Meanwhile, James Logston leaves the pit lane. As he does, Eric Nickens is here, and Nickens, after moving up to P3, is within arm's reach of what is their Logston, but the Votan Clan driver couldn't quite make the leap into P2. But what a brilliant piece of strategy, and Eric Nickens, through strategy, has gained the most out of what is the rest of the top 5 from himself, James Logston, David Adey and Jordan Butler, Julian Jones in P6 now, Jason Andrew P7 and Christian Desoto P8, but they've all pitted. The only driver yet to pit is S. Edward Irving, who's down in P18. I suspect he will pit at some point, and well, when he does make that pit stop, that will be putting him down outside the top 20. Wesley Griffith leaving the pit lane as I look out my commentary booth window, and well, Irving, as soon as I say that, does come into the pit lane. So for the final 10 minutes of this race now, we're going to have everybody completing their mandatory pit stop, and now we are in a race all the way to the finish. As we look back over the rear of the Team Bear Pope 42, well, the American Logston right now just soldiering on here as he powers his way down the back stretch, and as he does so, well, he's going to be gradually letting the car weave out. But the problem is Nickens here's got the overspeed. I think Eric Nickens feels as though he can make the move, and also he can then break away. Well, it's a statement for Nickens to be going for it right now, because if he wasn't to feel that confident, I don't think he'd go for it immediately, but he's going to go all in as Callaway sets a new fastest lap of the race of 32.600 to be exactly precise. Well, the man's precise, accurate and reliable. Well, that's the perfect combination here at MotorLand Aragón, and Logston now falls to P3 behind Eric Nickens with David Adeyemi P4, but then again, we've still got the best part of a quarter of this race to go, and well, many of you remember at Spa-Francorchamps we did see a number of drivers get it wrong in the final stage of the race. Could we see some late drama? But right now from P2 all the way through to P7, it is a gap of 3 seconds, and at the back of this long line of 6 cars is Jason Landry for Sunday GT Turtles, who would love to get involved in this and start to pick off the places, having made this his first round of the season, having missed Spa-Francorchamps a week ago. But we've been talking a lot about the pros and the overall top 10. Let's also talk about what's happening outside the top 10. Tanner Dibble's pit stop has put him P12. We're ahead of Shaji Zuhair, albeit he's just recently found his way past the AM driver. So therefore the 252 not fighting too hard here, knowing there's too much of the race left to really make it worthwhile to fight versus Dibble. I think he'd have a different perspective if perhaps he only had 2 or 3 minutes left to go, because that's the equivalent of approximately 1 to 2 laps. But as the ITT West JMT driver makes his way in towards turn number 7, his concern will be, I think, that Bryce is not too far behind, and then Joseph Blomel is only 5 seconds back. Right now, relative pace says that Blomel is not catching, but then again, over the next couple of laps, we could always see the tables turn. From Shaji Zuhair, meanwhile, we do look to Joseph Blomel, your 3rd place AM driver for Eclipse Racing Esports by Skyline Designs, as he makes his way on down through the Spanish corkscrew, and as he does so right now, absolutely in the zone, getting the rhythm in, and will blow out in the race, but he'll make it a back-to-back run of P3s, and well, to be fair, that is consistency in of itself, given how close this field is. But meanwhile, we had a bit of an incident for Wesley Griffith, as I understand. In fact, not for Wesley Griffith, for Todd Miller, who's been himself back together. That's the run coming out of turn 2 into 3. In fact, no, let us correct ourselves there entirely. That's the run coming down into what is turns 8 and 9. So Todd Miller has dropped down. Justin Jamison Jr. has fallen back into P30. Miller goes around there, so he's had a spin earlier on. I think the tyres are overheated, and Miller just can't get the car to do what he wants to. Thankfully, he's able to turn it through despite its wide turn circle and avoid the tyre barrier, but that was very close there to going from good to bad to disastrous in the space of 1 rotation. But Miller right now really having it fall apart in the closing stages here, but still it could happen to anybody, as meanwhile Justin Delano getting ahead of Tim Chong in what is the run for P17, as Christian Desoto has just been towed to the pits from what I hear. So Desoto was running P8 at the time. We haven't caught what happened. It was at the start of lap 21, which the leaders are now onto, but Christian Desoto has fallen to the pits, and as a result, that's going to put him out of this race, I suspect. In fact, they have retired the car, which is very unfortunate. So therefore, it is going more and more the way of the one and only Jaden Callaway, and Desoto won't be able to play anymore inside that top 10 battle. But from that, we did see it was a car ran wide. That was Edwin Irving, the Team Bear Pope car, just getting it wrong under braking, losing the rear, kicked out there. And I would imagine that tyre life right now, particularly for some other drivers, have been pushing hard in the first in the race. Nobody changed tyres by looks of things, and well, the tyres now refusing to want to provide as much grip as they did earlier, and that's something that you have to adjust to. And well, for Irving there, just trying to bring it back together, but being a lap down here on the lead as they make their way through and doing everything with his knowledge of the circuit to try and steer clear. He doesn't want to impede any of them, and does very well there to ride the curve at turn number 2, albeit I feel for him. And the fact he has got some sausage curves he would have mounted there, and the suspension can take a hit or two, but taking multiple hits in quick succession can very quickly change the geometry of the suspension and knock it out of alignment. But Irving right now, as he makes his way in towards turn number 7, well, up the inside goes Adi, so does, in fact that is Butler I should say, and so does Landry. So therefore all the pros right now picking their way past the AM driver who's really had a bit of misfortune. And also there, that is Jones, who completes the run of the top 7 past the AM driver, and they put a lap over him as they make the way on around the back stretch. But as they do, we jump on board here with Julian Jones, the ITD West JMT driver I should say, not MTD, goodness me. Next up we're saying it's MIT, well they could have built the car there. And as he makes his way down towards turn number 13, well, Jones right now 4 tenths back, a little bit far back, and noticeably not getting the exit out of turn 9 that he would like, because Landry is actually pulling away very slightly. In fact, Landry's going to go too wide here versus what will be Butler, so he's up the inside into 13-14. Jones will need to look at this and think about how he can seize on it, as Butler goes a little bit deep at the apex of 13. That will cost him the exit run, and Jones as a result now, he won't be in an attacking position into turn 1, but he'll feel as though that Butler's perhaps picked up an extra marble or 2, and that could just simply take the tyres down a level in terms of the amount of grip available, and perhaps give an opportunity as they make their way through turn 1. There's a hit to the sausage curve there for Butler, but hits it not quite square on, so it doesn't upset the car. And as they make their way through 2 into 3, well, Jones right now staying very close all the way up into the run. Will he look for it here? If he does decide to do so, that's coming from very far back, and also under braking and rotating the car simultaneously to also go for a move. I think you'd be asking too much of Legia JS P320. And as they come in towards turn number 7, Will Jones, if he's going to go for it, he'll have to go for it in the run down the back straight here, just because right now it seems as though Butler is able to open that gap up and doesn't feel as perhaps outrun in terms of running in the dirty air of another driver compared to when he's running in clear air, because he's staying right with Landry. Jones, meanwhile, I don't think likes the dirty air of the front end of the car, and it may just be simply starting to sap into his lap time. As they come out to the back straight, then gap now up to half a second. You can see Jones just does not get the exit out of the turn 8-9 chicane. And well, I think there's the evidence of the 33 that right now Jones, as much as he's huffing and puffing in this chase, he just doesn't feel comfortable in that dirty air, and it's what's cost him dear. Meanwhile, we look back to the battle for P2. These are the closest battles right now, and well, no other battles really outside the top 10 at the moment, so this is where we'll focus. New fastest lap of the race from Jalen Callaway, and now at 32.329. Goodness me, Callaway absolutely flying out there, even on what is 35-minute-old tyres at this point, well, 36-minute-old tyres I should say. As Nickens makes his way into turn number 1, James Logsdon still there and thinking about it. They have got a little bit of traffic in front. That was a lock-up there for Wesley Griffith, albeit just a small lock-up, and therefore doesn't have to worry too much. And as they come in towards turn 3 and 4, it's those small little lock-ups where you see the puff of smoke. Those aren't too bad if you can very quickly stop the lock-up from occurring. It's the full lock-up where you see a long line of smoke come out, and also when there's a groove made into the tarmac surface, a big black rubber stamp on the surface, if you will. Those are the ones that really kill and overheat the tyres. But tiny lock-ups you can get away with so long as you don't keep repeating them time and time again. As Nickens powers out, it's going to be at Logsdon, still 4 attempts back as they come down into Sakarakos, and as they roar their way right into left here. Right now he's going to be in the toe with Nickens of Wesley Griffith. Now will Griffith back off here on the run through turn number 10? No, he decides to commit. I think Griffith might back off instead on the run down the back straight. It'll be the most costly for him, but at the same time as well, I think Nickens at this point will be going, yeah, just keep on that racing line, absolutely fine. I need the toe here, it's going to pull me away from Logsdon. You can see that gap open up to 6 attempts, but there is going to be Wes Griffith just holding over to the left as Nickens gets closer and closer. He will shortly pill out to the right, and well, Griffith there being as compliant as you can be. And as they make the way in towards turns at 13 and 14, now the question for Griffith is, will he let what will be Logsdon go? Yes, he does indeed. And well, Griffith having a back off as well. And as they come in towards turns 13 and 14, through left hand they go. And of course, keeping in mind the fact Wesley Griffith and Eric Nickens being teammates in this series, so therefore a little bit of intercoms perhaps playing out between the two drivers. But to be fair to Griffith, also given the same benefit to what was none other than James Logsdon. So neither driver really gaining or losing too much, albeit Nickens getting a better toe because he was closer on approach. And as they come through turns 2 and 3, well, Jordan Butler right now, he's got Julian Jones for company as they head up the rise. As they come in towards the double left here. Oh, goodness me! Butler loses it, going too much towards the grass. Has to catch the car, my lord! And almost clipping Jones in the process. Well, Butler in the end does get the car stopped on the runoff space on the outside of turn number 5. But I don't know there whether Jones realised that he almost just had the car completely swept out from underneath him. And the ITT West JMT driver, right now when he looks back at that, I think he's going to be having a few words with Butler to say. Goodness me, that was very close indeed. And, well, the American right now, he's used up one of his 9 lives if he was a cat. How many others he's used up over the course of this race? Well, I don't think he's used up any. I think that might be worth all 9 of his lives, to be fair, as he makes his way on down the backstretch once again. And that really opens up the running for what is P2. Well, not P2, P4 now. David Addy is 3 seconds up the road from Jones, and Jones in turn is the best part of 5 seconds up the road from Jordan Butler. So their battle has come to what is a premature close with a minute to go. Here's Eric Nickens still holding on to P2 for Photan Clan, and well, as they head in towards the final pair of corners for the penultimate time, your race leader Jaden Callaway is already onto the 26th. Excuse me, and what will be a final lap of this race as they make the way down towards turn number 1. But as they do, well, James Logsdon sets a personal best that lap round, 32.595. So will Logsdon here go all in? We'll have to see. He'll try it, of course, but as they make the way up the hill through turns 2 and 3, well, where can Logsdon go for the move? What he's really got to do is get the best possible run out of the chicane at turns 8 and 9 and be within about 3 attempts on the run through Mark Marquez. If he does so, then he'll have the right to be alongside, but Nickens will be able to dictate where it's the inside or the outside. I suspect Nickens will make him go the long way round and really try to get a shoe in with regards to that battle under braking. But as we do say hello there to none other than Phantom02 in the YouTube chat, who is catching the broadcast between stints in the Indianapolis 6 hours. Of course, the official iRacing event, and glad to have you tuning in, Phantom Zero. As they make the way on down here, no such closure for Logsdon. In fact, it looks like the car might be running out of tyre life because that gap has opened up to 7.5 tenths. They power their way onto the backstretch for the final time today in this race, and as they power their way on down, well, it's not going to go any other way than Nickens right now unless the number 44 makes a mistake right at the close. But as they power their way onwards towards 2 more corners, it's a long stretch. Meanwhile, we have to look to this man because he makes his way through the last 2 corners. He may not have started on pole, but he took the lead early on, and he's never looked back as Jaden Callaway brings on home an absolutely dominant tour de force here at MotorLand Aragón to take overall victory, and with it the Pro Class win as well by 10.2 seconds at the line. It will be to Eric Nickens, who's runner up there for Photan Clan, fending off James Logsdon at just about finishes P3 on the final step of the overall podium. David Addy P4 ahead of Julian Jones. Jordan Butler in the end takes home a consolatory P6. It could have been a top 5 today, but it wasn't to be. But meanwhile, in P7, he's gone a bit quiet since what's the 20th minute mark. But here comes your prime winner. P7 is going to be the middle of the pack race in his first win of the season. He slows down. Surely not. He's coming into the pits. Why is he coming into the pits for bragging? That's going to demote him a lap for middle of the pack racing, which means that Ethan Rolfe will be classified P7 at the finish, surely for Vice Motorsports, your AM winner, the Englishman ahead of Matthew Quinton, who's going to take, I believe, the prime win and will be promoted up. And then Tanner Dibble will be listed as P10, but remember, they all get promoted to places. Bragan going to the pits, but Dibble finished P9. Top 10 completed by runner-up Shaji Zuhair, who couldn't quite take the fight to even roll today. Tom Bryce in the end will finish what will be P2 in the prime class when all is done. There is, I do believe, Justin Bragan coming out the pit lane, and then it will be Joseph Blamel who comes home P3 in the AM class, and what will be P12 once everything's updated, ahead of Braden Melling. Justin Delano, well, I think he's going to take what will be third place on the prime podium, P15 overall, ahead of Tim Chong and Glenn Bratton, and also Garrett Chavez. Let's not forget him, who chased Justin Delano every step of the way, but it wasn't enough today for the Kind of Fast Racing team to beat the number 1 3.8. And then we will have Jermaine Warren at P19 ahead of Aaron Lahr, with Mark Senegal coming home just outside the top 20 and into the pits as well for Sunday GT Turtles. So his race is finished, and I believe he will be the last finisher on the lead lap, because Aaron Tilke has finished a lap down. So therefore some surprises in store, and we'll get the results shortly to confirm exactly where Justin Braggan has finished, whether he is the prime winner or not, given the fact he has to come into the pits before he crossed line. But normally that does reset a car down a lap. But here we can see, as they make the way on through, the lovely view here of the Clips Racing Esports by Skyline Designs trio of what is Blamel, alongside him of course being none other than Braden Melling, and also I do believe, and that is the car of Justin Delano. And well, having a solid day today, particularly for Blamel Melling. One on the podium of the AM class, that being Blamel, and Melling just behind him. And Delano, I believe, promoted to P3 Pro-Am, and with it, all three of them inside the top 15. That's a huge haul of points for both the team and the individual drivers. But with most of the field in the pit lane, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are. So after an absolutely thrilling round number 2 here in the middle of the pack Racing League, falling into LMP3 Championship for 2024, as powered by our parody sponsor, none other than the Dentistry World Conference Tour, and of course brought to you on iRacing. Jaden Callaway, your winner in the end, unstoppable. Whilst he may not have been on pole, we didn't need to ask twice about leading this race, with a win for ITD West by 10.5 seconds over Photon Clan's Eric Nickens. James Logston in the end, fighting hard for second place, but finishing at P3 behind his rival. A great little rivalry between them, 7/10 at the close for the Team Bear Poke driver behind the Photon Clan driver. And then in P4, David Adeyi for ITT West, ahead of sister team ITT West JMT's Julian Jones. And then misfortune hitting Jordan Butler with only a lap to go. P6 was the finish, but to be fair, I think he was hoping for a top 5 for DNA Motorsports. Vice Motorsports' Ethan Rolfe finished P8 out on circuit, but classified at P7, with Justin Braggan being demoted down to P14 as a result of that pit stop at the end of the race. And Ethan Rolfe there, your AM winner, the Vice Motorsports driver from England, taking the AM win and a top 10 with it. And I think Rolfe here right now will know that definitely he might be looking at the prime class come at rounds 3 and 4, depending on when the class changes do come into effect. But still, either way, we love to see an AM up inside that top 10, and Rolfe demonstrating his prowess, no doubt about it. Matthew Quinton, P8 there, your Pro-Am winner, the British driver for the privateer. And in the end, just behind Rolfe by the best part of 4 seconds, with Tanner Dibble at P9 for DNA Motorsports, and then Shaji Zuhair, P10 for ITT West JMT, and runner up there in the AM class. After misfortune at the start that saw him move out of lead of the AM class and drop all the way outside the top 20, well done to him for recovering to being inside the top 10 and second place on the AM podium. Tom Bryce, another solid drive there to a second place finish at IT West JMT behind his teammate, and indeed that's a P11 overall, he won't scoff at that. And then Joseph Blamel takes the third spot on the AM podium of Rolf Zuhair and himself, with the Eclipse Racing Esports by Skyline Design driver, finishing 5 seconds clear of teammate Braden Melling, who missed out on the AM podium, but still P4 in AM class and a P13 overall. They'll be absolutely jubilant about that. Justin Braggan in the end with that late pit stop, I suspect it was a situation whereby he may have run out of fuel just before the finish line and needed to creep it into the pit lane, or perhaps it was a drive-through penalty. We won't know. We'll have to speak to him after the race. Well, I can definitely tell you that Justin Braggan there will feel absolutely robbed of what was looking to be a superb prime win, but still a third place in the prime class. He's still in that podium for middle of the pack racing, and we're just ahead by less than a second of Justin Delano for Eclipse Racing Esports by Skyline Design. Garrett Chavez round off the prime top 5, and with that P16 just missing out in the top 15. And then your top 20 was completed by the combination of what was, as we do see there on screen, none other than Tim Chong P17 ahead of Glenn Bratton, and then Jermaine Warren and Aaron Lahr. Aaron Lahr was our last lead lap finisher. A lap down was Mark Senegal for Sunday GT Turtles, albeit he was a lead lap finisher, but then that pit stop at the end demoted him a lap, but he still finished ahead of Aaron Tilke, with Wesley Griffith with misfortune in the end, couldn't quite follow up that superb drive at Spa-Francorchamps, and in the end finishing P23 a lap down. From the Photon Clan driver, it was the privateers of Alexander Fresalone and Nick Bader to round off the top 25, and then S. Edward Irvin P26. for Team Bear Pope. 2 laps down to Jason Landry for Sunday GT Turtles in the end. Well, we're not quite sure what happened to Jason Landry, but he suddenly disappeared out of the race right towards the end. No doubt about it, but we'll have to try and get some more information on that where we can. I believe there might have been a late incident for Landry. In fact, there was an off track, and it saw him have to tow the car to the pits, and therefore Jason Landry's race coming a cropper when he was doing so well inside the top 5. 2 laps down for the Sunday GT Turtles driver, and the same for Todd Miller for Caboose Crew. And I can see David take the wheel there, clarifying in the Twitch chat that Landry had an incident with a lapped car. That's very unfortunate for Landry, but hopefully all parties involved can learn from it, as the shooting process is intended to do that. And outside, what is the run to P30? Well, Christian Desoto there, finishing 6 laps down, and therefore classified as a non-finisher, as to be a finisher of the race, you must finish within 5 laps of the race winner. So therefore, from Desoto downwards, they're all non-finishers, or DNFs, and that also included 12 laps down to Jesse Jameson Jr., 16 laps down to Jay DeVries, and then also Lee Porter, Jake Gertson, and Dominique Ford, who were having that heart-breaking race, and in the end, it did not go anywhere other than the pit lane. With that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our second round of the season, and what a round it has been, and we still have plenty more to come. But until then, that's all we've got time for race-wise, and it is time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the Middle of the Pack Racing League community, the MPRL, in terms of being on the grid for our future series going into 2025, or just wanting to get to know who makes up the grid and who works on it behind the scenes, well, why not check out the official Discord, invite link available on screen there. And as you may notice, we've got drivers primarily from the North American continent. We've also got some drivers from the European continent. Indeed, it is a community open to all, and therefore, as the community goes from strength to strength, you are more than welcome to be a part of it. We'd love to have you. But if you don't want to go to Discord, perhaps you're a little bit shy, well, of course, you can follow us on social media at Twitter, at twitter.com/MOP Racing. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, attention now turns to a week's time, because in round 3 of 8, we make way to Italy for the one and only Autodromo Internazionale Enzo E. Dino Ferrari, or known as Imola in reference to the local town. And whilst the racing will occur as of what will be Wednesday the 18th of September, you've got to be there to see how it all played out in the post-round broadcast on Saturday the 21st of September 2024. A very different circuit with plenty of chicanes, multiple direction changes, and a lack of sweeping corners, minus the opening chicane. Who will lead the way in Italy? Will we see repeat winners, our first repeat winners of any other classes, or will we see new names at the top once again? Well, for that, all that and more, you'll have to tune in next weekend. But until then, we have been the Middle of the Pack Racing League. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, as always, remember to stay on track. Good night.